This is a really cool place. Less fun to try to infiltrate when there's a bunch of bad guys all over it.
Welcome to the Serapeion of Alexandria.
Different tour guide now.
In a city of numerous magnificent attractions, the Serapeion was considered to be the most beautiful temple of Alexandria. Located southwest of the city on a small hill known as the Acropolis, the sanctuary was constructed during the reign of Ptolemy III, upon foundations which had existed since the reign of Ptolemy I Soter.
Okay, that explains it. I was just looking at my phone really quick to see the tweet when I went live on Twitch, and the reason I couldn't see it is because I had a video go live on my YouTube channel after I've started streaming here.
Visitors of the Serapeion climbed 100 steps to reach the courtyard. Libraries were installed in the porticos surrounding the square building, with its roof and columns adorned with gold and gilded bronze. Pharaohs were generous to the temple, as were several Roman emperors after Egypt's conquest. An inner temple housed the statue of Serapis, dedicated to healing the sick.
Serapis is the scorpion goddess of Egypt. And I think Greeks actually were the deities that they shared with the Greeks. I think that now that we're in the Serapeion here, we should we can go back to being a nobleman. We could be a noble woman now too. Very fancy.
Since the 26th dynasty, Greeks in Egypt had gradually integrated the Egyptian cult of the Apis bull to their own rituals. With the establishment of the Ptolemaic dynasty, the cult of Apis was further integrated into Greek religion. During his rule, Ptolemy I chose to merge Egyptian and Hellenic gods into a syncretic divinity named Serapis. This name was the result of the amalgamation of Osiris and Apis. With this new deity, the Ptolemaic dynasty managed to accommodate similar belief sets for two different cultures, bringing about a new dynastic cult.
Well, that's interesting.
Serapis was also associated to other deities, including Asclepius, a Greek god of healing. It is possible that, as with the Serapis Temple of Canopus, the sick would visit this sanctuary, sleeping there overnight in the hopes of being healed within its hallowed halls.
Well, the two are completed. Ooh, this is a longer one, but this will be cool. The Library of Alexandria is awesome. Down we go. clamshell up there. That's hilarious.
Welcome to the Great Library of Alexandria. Near the district of royal palaces and within the Moseon was the most famous library of all antiquity. The Library of Alexandria was built to house all of human knowledge. At its pinnacle, the library was believed to contain over 700,000 parchments.
Wow.
Throughout the centuries, fires and wars between Christianity and paganism destroyed the library, leaving nothing behind. The loss of the building, and more importantly, its vast collection, is immeasurable. As no descriptions are available, the team's rendition of the Library of Alexandria was inspired by the visuals of the Library of Chalcis at Ephesus.
That's cool. Okay. So this is what they used to create the Library of Alexandria. They didn't actually know what it looked like. That is... I don't need to repeat what the tour guide just said, but that's cool. So it's actually from Ephesus. Huh. Neat.
While much of the collection was purchased at the government's expense, the library also obtained books through other means. Any books owned by travelers coming through the city were seized to be copied for the library. The copy would then be returned to the owner, and the original entered into the library's collection.
That's interesting. Sure, it pissed off a lot of people, but... Well, I can't even run in here. Gotta be fancy and walk. Here's another one of these things. You're just counting scrolls? It's not like you're looking at the spines of a book. You can't, like, there's the scrolls. You'd have to pull out the scroll to look at it to know if it what you wanted or not.
Alexandria offered unrivaled intellectual and cultural attractions. Eminent scholars from Athens, Rhodes, and other Greek centers traveled to the city to learn and engage with other free thinkers. Both the Moseon and the library were at the center of groundbreaking ideas and creative expression. The great minds of antiquity were usually well versed in many disciplines, which were often associated to specific schools of thought. The Peripatetics, the Stoics, and the Cynics were among the most well-known schools of the time. It is clear that Alexandria lived up to its fundamental role as a city for intellectuals, nurturing many great minds whose impact reverberates through our modern world.
That's cool. So next time someone says you look stoic...
Hypatia of Alexandria was a Greek mathematician, philosopher, astronomer, and inventor. Though born in Greece, she eventually migrated to Alexandria, like many great minds of the time. It is there that she became the head of the Neoplatonist school of Alexandria. From most accounts, she was highly respected by her fellow Alexandrians, both as a teacher and a philosopher. With her death, the age of great ancient scientific discoveries came to an end. Callimachus was born in Cyrene and educated in Athens. After his studies, he moved to Alexandria to work in the Great Library. A poet and a critic, he strongly rejected the epic format of Homeric poems and instead fervently supported a shorter, more judiciously formulated style of poetry. His epigrams and elegiac poems were emulated by later poets. His work was extremely popular, second only to Homer's own works.
Αθάνατη, δοκιμάζουσε βροντής δοκιμασίας.
Ευτυχώς επέρασε η θύελα. Τι μη τάλα στη Πάσχο. Μεγίστη χάριν δόκηση ευπράττει. Εμού απολαμβάνεις η μίζωνα χαιρέστε.
It was in Alexandria that mathematician Euclid, the father of geometry, wrote the Elements, laying out the foundational work of what would become modern algebra and number theory. Euclidean geometry would become one of the most influential systems in the evolution of mathematics. How do you calculate the circumference of the Earth? With a camel, 2 sticks, and shadows cast by the sun. This is what Eratosthenes of Cyrene described in his principal work, Geography, while he was director of the Great Library of Alexandria. He is credited for the invention of the armillary sphere around 250 BCE.
What am I looking at? I mean, I know it's a map, but... Huh. Guess it's hard to make a map when you can't, see very well, huh? Is this a lighting artifact, or is this something I can interact with? It's coming in through the ceiling, I'm sure. Or through a window, but it was just glitching out the way I was walking.
The earliest known and most complete armillary sphere of antiquity was the Meteoroscopion of Alexandria, with an imposing 9 rings compared to the 3 or 4 of most other astrolabes. Known as the zodiac krikatoi amongst the Greeks, the Meteoroscopion was used to determine the location of celestial bodies around the Earth. Every self-respecting astronomer of antiquity would have sought to use this tool to better understand the celestial movements. Pythagoras of Samos was a well-known and respected philosopher and mathematician. He is best known for the Pythagorean theorem. However, there is proof that the theorem existed in Babylonia and India long before Pythagoras was born, casting some doubts as to who exactly originated the theorem.
Are you a fraud, Pythagoras?
Συ, κόρη, Άγιε, ονείστε ένα πέπλον, τε και πόρπιν από του Ρεφαίους.
Are there any spots in the ground that nobody's currently standing in? That maybe I could stand in? Move. Move. I want to experience the museum. That was the wrong button. How about that one? So now we could go, this is the closest one, Education in Alexandria, or the Islands of Pharos. This one's really short, let's start there. This is a room I never saw playing the game, which is unfortunate. So the question is now, do we walk out, or do we try to find a way out the way you would if you were playing the game?
three things are necessary when exploring Egypt: water, a good camera, and an omnipresent voice coming from nowhere.
Oh gosh, these guys have an interesting sense of humor. They were like that during the game too, with various different aspects. Not omnipresent voices, but stuff. Is there any way out of here? The only way to get up here was to climb up here, huh? I wonder if that just plays automatically, or if... Oh, it actually was going to let me experience this. Oh, whatever. We still have to find a way out of here, and we can only walk. Are there any open windows? We can always just walk out, I guess. There we go. Let's go for a spin, shall we?
Take your time. I'll wait. It's not like ancient Egypt is going anywhere.
That's actually hilarious. Alright.
Welcome to Education in Alexandria. The education of young Alexandrians did not differ from the one generally dispensed elsewhere in ancient Greece. At the age of 7, the child was taken in charge by a tutor, who then became responsible for instilling an elementary education as well as good moral principles. Teaching was generally done outside, in the open air. In the gymnasium, students were taught not only sports, but also topics such as rhetoric, philosophy, music, and poetry. All things deemed essential to one's education at the time.
That's cool. Talk about outdoor school.
Here, both girls and boys are shown attending a class given by one of the rhetoricians of the era. The team made the choice to show both genders attending class within the context of the game world. Even though it is historically inaccurate, the team felt it was not necessary to prioritize historical sexism over inclusive gameplay.
Way to go. That sounded sarcastic. I meant it. Like, actually, way to go, Ubisoft, but I sounded sarcastic when I said that, I think. Which I did not intend at all.
Welcome to the Islands of Pharos.
Oh, it set me to a different time tonight. Sorry, I totally had to wipe my eye, and I totally got a smudge on my glasses, and it's really bothering me. Alright, if we're going to the Pharos out here, it's time to look like a Roman soldier.
The Heptastadion was a bridge-like causeway connecting the island of Pharos to mainland Alexandria. Its name is based on the Greek terms of measurement, hepta, meaning 7, and stadion, which is a measure of length of roughly 180 meters.
That looks a lot longer in this picture than it does in the game world.
Since its construction would separate the Grand Port to the east and the port of Eunostos to the west, it was designed with channels at each end. These openings allowed passage from one port to the other.
Yeah, that's way longer than it is in the game. Huh.
Along with creating separate harbors for the commercial and military shipping, the causeway served as a main aqueduct for the island's inhabitants. Its presence also helped protect the island and its ports from rough wind and sea currents. At the end of antiquity, the Heptastadion disappeared under layers of silt and soil, which formed an important sedimentary deposit.
Huh. It was hard to let that convoy go by and not want to attack them all for their resources. After playing the game for so long. As far as brilliance in game design goes, I really hope this game got some rewards. I don't actually know if it did or not. I really hope it did though. It's beautiful.
While the Serapeion was the most celebrated of the temples in Alexandria, many other temples were built within the city. Most of these structures have been completely erased over time, and there is no way to discern how many existed. However, research of ancient papyri offered tantalizing hints as to the possible location of at least some of the temples.
We've seen that picture before, which is why I didn't leave it up for very long.
Both papyri and coins reveal evidence of many temples built for the gods. Poseidon, the god of the sea, likely had an edifice in his honor west of this island, as well as on the mainland. This temple next to you is dedicated to Isis Pharia, the divine protector of the lighthouse. This location hosted annual celebrations in the month of April, known as the Sacrum Pharia, in connection to the lighthouse. In her incarnation as Isis Fortuna, the goddess carries a rudder and a cornucopia, both symbols of good luck for navigators. Considered one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the Lighthouse of Alexandria was a source of great pride for the inhabitants of the city. Construction began under Ptolemy I's reign and lasted 15 years. It was completed during his son's rule. Once completed, the lighthouse was dedicated to the gods for the salvation of those who sail the sea.
Another thing we can do too while we're exploring here is we can activate Senu, which is by X-Bird, which is really cool to look around, but like also stop and explore too. It's a beautiful game. I'm gonna have to reload the world a little bit now, because I am not playing on PS4 Pro. I just have a regular one. So,
Built on the island of Pharos, the stone structure was 3 tiers set on top of one another in a step formation. The second floor consisted of an octagonal tower, and the top floor was a cylindrical tower topped by a statue. The interior provided space for staff rooms and a ramp which allowed the transport of fuel to the upper floors.
you can actually climb that in this game too. Well, obviously you can. You can climb basically anything in this game.
Essential to safe navigation through the rifts and shallow waters, the Pharos was a functioning lighthouse, with a beam reportedly visible 50 kilometers away. It's unclear what kind of fuel was used or how much. Any other details of how the light worked remain a mystery. For several centuries, the Pharos was one of the highest monuments ever built by man. It measured roughly 110 meters in height, compared to the Pyramid of Giza, which was around 140 meters tall. Gradually, the structure was eroded by earthquakes and then completely destroyed in 1480 CE, when a fort was built over it. Archaeological excavations on the seabed have uncovered many blocks from the ancient building.
That's sad. They demolished this thing. It took 15 years to build. To build.